they got away with legal technicalities and loopholes, and we've always talked about, as in the Americans, talk about loopholes.
I disagree. A lot of them I don't think were legal. They did a lot of things that were illegal. A lot of the repossessions of the mortgage of the houses they took back were illegal. They were not doing that by the books. A lot of the stuff that went on, I think people legally should go to jail for.
That you may be right about, and I'm sure you're more right than I am, but I think the derivative trading and the making bets against yourself, basically upon your failure to try to make money and selling that was really regulated.
Well, I mean, yeah, because basically banks were, I mean, some of these financial institutions were selling products to their customers and then betting against their customers.
Exactly, which wasn't exactly a crime back then, as I understand it, unless I'm wrong.
I mean, there's a huge conflict of interest there, which a lot of them have articles or not articles, but what do you call it? Basic principles which guide how they're supposed to conduct business. I don't know I can't think of what you call a code of conduct. A code of conduct. Yeah, ethics is a good way of putting it. But I think there is a lot of legal ground to stand on that. A lot of the things that were going on were not just highly suspicious, but if you was in front of the right judge, people would go to jail for what they were doing.
Yeah.
Selling your customer one product and knowing that you're selling against it.
It's shitty for sure. When you get into how laws are written, it's just written so provocatively that you can almost find your way out of it if you've got a good attorney.
Well, it's so complex too. Like there's so much fucking law and it's written.
And like you said during the episode, it's like the people in charge of regulating or writing the laws are the same people who are making money from those banks that are profiting, or they're still kind of one foot in that pool.
Dude, you really have to read the secret recordings of Carmen Segura on This American Life.
Now that you told me about that, I'm like, I'm going to watch it tonight.
It is so fucking crazy because it's basically she takes a hidden audio recorder on these meetings, and she she was working for the New York Federal Reserve. I'm sorry, I left that part out. Yeah, and she was supposed to monitor Goldman Sachs, I guess. I believe it was Goldman Sachs. And the fucking audio footage that she picks up is astonishing. Astonishing. They needed to get like written permission to do something that they were doing, and they just never got written permission, and they basically made the Federal Reserve feel bad for even asking about it. Like, hey.
That's weird and terrible.
Well, it's just, so one of the things that they were doing was they were, like, you know, in a real estate deal, when the real estate company that's listing a house could be representing the buyer and the seller.
Okay.
And there's a bit of a conflict of interest there, kind of, because you could kind of want to rip one of the people off in order to make more money, right? Like, the buyer doesn't know this house is being really overvalued. Let's get them to buy it, and we make a fuckload more money. Well, they basically did that. One of the stories they talk about in this story, you should read it. This American Life. It's episode 536, The Secret Recordings of Carmen Segura. Listen to it. It's really provocative, and this is what's really going on today. This is really how regulators are interacting with these large financial institutions and how they're being bullied around and being told basically what to do. But in this segment, it was a similar situation where I believe it was two banks. I think it was Spanish banks. And the woman who was investigating this, Carmen Segura, I think it was happening on a Spanish holiday, which that was this deal that came across her table. It seemed really weird because it was on a holiday, and I might be mixing up stories, but the basic gist of it is that they represented both of the banks. One bank was trying to offload a bunch of debt to another bank at a certain rate so that they could take on then more debt, because you need to have a certain amount of reserves in order to take on debt. So if you can sell off a bunch of debt on your books, then all of a sudden it looks good. Your debt to equity ratio looks better if you can unload a bunch of debt. So they were basically trying to unload a bunch of debt to another bank, have them sit on it for them, and pay a rate. You should listen to the story. I think it was what it actually was that one bank was trying to sell to another bank, and the regulators represented both parties. And some of the people that represented the bank that was selling had investments in the bank that was going to be buying, like big investments.
That's always
right?
good.
So they wanted I think it was literally the person at Goldman Sachs that was representing this bank that was trying to sell to this other bank, literally had huge sums of money invested in this other bank.
Holy
so
shit.
he was trying to really undervalue this other bank, because then this bank would get a sick deal and his money would go up, and that's what happened. And they're like, oh, there's no conflict of interest here. Like, we should be cool with this. And it's like, no. Like, this is...
Well, you know, even in like normal human interaction that isn't on such a large scale,
I'm going to email this to you.
do it. There is conflicts of interest that happen all the time. I feel like even at, like your local company, wherever you work, it may not be a crime of such large proportion. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to take the soda from the fridge, don't tell anybody, even though it's someone else's soda or something stupid. But because the guy's your buddy, you're like, whatever. Like, I know it's a small scale thing. I'm just saying that's how the human brain works. I'm saying it's human nature. That's what I'm trying to say.
And
it's
when
like,
people are okay with breaking those rules,
Yeah.
that cultural starts to spread, where it's
Right.
like, it's okay to blur that line.
Exactly. And I thought you were the one that brought up blowing that line. Maybe we're just talking about getting over that human greed slash just primal urge to gimme, want, take.
Rather than give.
Right, yeah.